Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, it's a weekend went by.
Yes.
Where did it go?
I know it went out the window, but I'll tell you, the news never stops, does it? Doesn't it?
Well, it depressed me all weekend long. It really did because, now I'm up here in Boston, but point is that you can't say anything. And they, they recycle the news. So you'll watch a loop.
Yeah.
That is the same crap over and over and over again.
Oh, I know that. I know. It's
all
like,
weekend long.
Don't they have somebody in the news department who, gets new stuff?
No.
Holy smokes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're watching the same story over and over and over again. And it was a beautiful weekend for the liberals because they could sit there and talk about how bad Trump is. And he's got, 3 indictments and number 4 coming down the track.
You told me just before the program started that some news anchor said something about 4 indictments.
Well, yeah, it was an ABC. Now, I think it was national, actually, and sat there and said, yeah, Trump has has pleaded guilty to 4 indictments. I'm going, wait a minute, he didn't plead guilty. But
I know.
They're planting that thought, and you hear that thing over and over and over again, and it programs into your mind. It's almost like when you were driving down the road and you used to see the signs every 100 feet, the Burma-shaped signs.
Yes. After a while, it becomes your product. You see it the first time, you don't even notice it.
Yeah, it's called simulconsciencing, and that's how that works. That's the technical term. But they're programming you, and it becomes – it's like the old Coca-Cola things in the movie films. Every so many frames, they put one frame of popcorn.
Suggestive, what do they call it?
Suggestive advertising.
Advertising, yep. And it'd be a frame of popcorn. And you couldn't see it when you were watching live. It went by so quickly.
Now, is that manipulating the news and manipulating the vote?
Well, what do they call segments of entertainment and news on the telly? What do they call them? They call them programs. Are they trying to tell us something? Are they trying to say we're being programmed?
Well, if you could prove the subliminal effect of this, that's illegal. That was done away with a long time. There's big federal laws on that, and it has nothing to do with, I don't have a broadcast license. Sorry, that federal law supersedes that. You can't do it anyway.
What do they call that box with that tube in the living room? They call it the television.
All right, you're stretching now.
I know. That's true, I am. Hey, Ron DeSantis made the news over the weekend. And you gotta, do I have the audio? I think I do. Yes, I do. I want you to hear the anchor because she really wants him to answer a question. I'll just leave it like that. But DeSantis publicly declared that President Joe Biden legitimately secured his 81 million votes in the 2020 election and that Donald Trump lost. That's what Ron DeSantis said. But I want you to listen to the way that he says it. Did he? No, that's the story, right? But did he? He says it, but he goes all around the block answering the question. It's like, I don't want to say this. It's like it's painful for the guy. And this was Ron DeSantis a couple of days ago. Maybe it was on one of the Sunday shows. I'm not really sure exactly. I think it was one of the Sunday shows. And listen to this.
So you recently said the election is what it is. You said all those theories that were put out did not prove to be true. So can we just put this to bed so you don't have to be asked about this a million more times? Yes or no, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Whoever puts their hand on the Bible on January 20th every 4 years is the winner. And I don't think the election, and I've pointed out in that same quote, and I've said this from the very beginning, When they changed the rules for COVID, I think that was wrong. I think some of those changes were unconstitutional. When they do mass mail ballots, I think that's wrong. I think ballot harvesting is wrong. I think the Zuckerbucks were wrong. I think the fact that the FBI was working with Facebook and these other tech companies to censor the Hunter Biden story was wrong. And so I don't think it was the perfect election. I remember after a lot of the media was saying this is the most secure election in history. How could it be the most secure with those millions of mail ballots going out? At the same time, after the election, they were talking about Maduro stealing votes on the voting machines or whatever, and none of those theories proved to be true. But here's the issue that I think is important for Republican voters to think about. Why did we have all those mail votes? Because of Trump turned the government over to Fauci. They embraced lockdowns. They did the CARES Act, which funded mail-in ballots across the country. Donald Trump signed that bill that funded the mail ballots that all the Republicans have been so concerned about. And also with the censorship of the Hunter Biden. That was Donald Trump's FBI that was working with that. He didn't have control over his own government. So me as the nominee, we will not let them run circles around us. If there is ballot, in Florida, we ban ballot harvesting, right? I think that's what you should do. If there is ballot harvesting that's allowed in like Nevada, we are going to do it too. We're not going to fight with one hand tied behind our backs. And so I think all of those issues were very problematic. But at the end of the day, you know, Donald Trump helped facilitate that whole set of circumstances.
Okay, but respectfully, you did not clearly answer that question. And if you can't give a yes or no on whether or not Trump lost, then how can...
Of course he lost.
Trump lost the 2020 election.
Of course.
Okay.
Joe Biden's the president. But the issue is, I think what people in the media and elsewhere, they want to act like somehow this was just like the perfect election. So I don't think it was a good run election. But I also think Republicans didn't fight back. You've got to fight back when that is happening, and you shouldn't have provided all the money to fund the mail-in ballots.
It's amazing to hear him talk about the poorly run election, how he doesn't want to answer the question, but she's persistent. And I was thinking, why is she so persistent? And, you know, we live in a world of clips and cuts and snippets. Right. And someone down the road is going to take that snippet now where he says, of course he lost the election. And that's all they're going to use in that interview. It's going to be in commercials or promotions. You watch.
Well, I've heard 3 different interviews over the weekend. And all the commentators, the news people are doing the same. Let's just stick to the question, yes or no.
Yeah.
You know, like an attorney driving. And sometimes you got to throw the question back in their face and stuff it down their throat going, it's a trick question. Don't answer it because.
But Bill, that's the honest. What you just said is the honest and the right thing to do. But politicians are always thinking around corners. They're trying
they want to dance around it to get you, because what they're trying to do right now, they know that the election was stolen. They know that they did not allow anybody to ask any questions, and there were questions like my hints earlier in the program when we started. You know. When do you sit there and challenge? There were challenges put forward, but is it 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%? At what point in time do the safeties kick in and saying, wait, we've got to go back and halt the count and go back and look at this? Now, Pence, lying bastard that he is, sat there and said, I upheld the Constitution. I didn't have the right to do this. I was told to do that. No, Mr. Pence, you were asked to pause the count so that we could go and investigate. You were the final safety gap in this train that went off the track. So you, sir, are the reason that we have a guy in office that is senile, that didn't draw a crowd anywhere. You show me one video, and I'll shut up, where Joe had a big crowd before the election, leading up to. He did not draw. I drove by one in Scranton at PNC Park, and he had 3 people there. Him, I think it was, what's the guy from CNN?
Anderson Cooper?
Yeah, Anderson Cooper on stage. Joe, some security, and two people sitting out in the crowd on PNC Field, and there was maybe a half dozen cars, and those were Secret Service. So tell me, show me that this guy won, because if he won by the landslide he did, there would have been a crowd, but there was no crowd anywhere. If he won by the landslide that he did, there wouldn't be any questions anywhere. And show me how at 1:30 in the morning in Pennsylvania, the votes, just 800,000 votes, just went away.
Hey, yesterday I spent 13 hours driving, and it gives you a lot of time to listen to commentators and to think. And, I heard the clip, and I haven't got it. I was kind of in a rush this morning to get audio. And but Mike Pence is truly a turncoat and a traitor. He is probably going to testify against Trump. He and Bill Barr, right? These were people who were supposed to be trusted, counted on people. They're going to probably testify. But Trump, his people want the trials to be televised. And Smith is fighting to stop it. You're exactly right. They're trying to keep us in the dark. And Trump is saying, no, we need light. We need the people to see what's going on, because they want to get Bill Barr in the stands. They want to get Mike Pence on the stand, because they're going to tear him apart.
Well, Barr, even in his thing saying, no, the election, Trump lost.
Yeah.
But he's going, there was no evidence. And I thought that was interesting. There was no evidence. That doesn't mean that the evidence doesn't exist. It just means that there was nothing presented or nothing allowed to be presented, because we never investigated. Although, as you pointed out, 18 states sat there and said, no, you know what? We want to sit there and take some time and look into this. All right, Arizona, which has been the big big
problem
mark.
state. Yeah. Yep.
All right. And they have that computer and the software. Actually, they use third-party software, and the software is supposed to be certified. That third-party software was not certified and has glitches in it, yet they passed this whole thing through, which means that everybody down the line, and there's going to be a Democrat appointee, just like a judge that overturned Trump's claim is a Clinton appointee. All these judges are Democratic appointees, and America needs to wake up and see what's going on here. This is a one-party system.
Yeah.
And they're going to hold on to what they can, because what's going to happen is they're going to make it a complete one-party system. The Republican Party will go away, and then the Romneys and the McConnells of the world will just become, Patriot Democrats or whatever. They'll be Democrats. And that's
we're on the precipice of something very major, I think, going on. I don't think, we had a few days off, and I think one of our last shows we talked about, is something happening in the background? And then we both kind of agreed, well, maybe it's not. And I really thought over the weekend, I did a little investigating, and I think there is something going on that we're not privy to, and I think Trump is privy to. I think Trump is, we used to talk about him being one of these chess players who thinks 5 moves ahead of his opponent, and we kind of laugh at that. But, with all of his faults, and he has faults, personality faults sometimes, although I think he's a pretty wonderful president and terrific candidate. But there are some people who just have a hard time with his kind of, they call it egotistical personality. I call it confident, okay? And there's a difference between being egotistical and being confident. But I think he's a brilliant man. You can't do what he's done in his private life and then do what he did in the 4 years as president. And you got to remember, we were cooking with gas for 4 years. This was not a country that was having a hard time until the damn pandemic came along, and we know where that came from, don't we? But I think that he is sending signals to us, and watch this. Watch this. They're going to come out with more stuff about Hunter sometime this week. It'll happen. Trust me.
Well, we didn't hear about Hunter all weekend long. We didn't hear about Joe Biden all weekend long.
Listen. Here's Bill Hemmer.
It's nearly goose eggs with the exception of MSNBC, 3 hours and 45 minutes. Then we want to figure out the Sunday show coverage of the Devon Archer transcript. And here it is, Dana. Goose eggs across the board. 0 minutes of coverage on CBS, ABC, NBC, or CNN.
Isn't that amazing? 0 minutes of coverage about Devon Archer. His transcript was released last week, and it was incredibly damaging to the Biden family, and specifically to Joe Biden. Never mind Hunter. Hunter is he's a pawn in this game, and the major news outlets completely ignored it. Now, if you are an older person like I am, I want you to go back in the Wayback Machine to the 1970s and Watergate, and try to imagine not a word being mentioned about the plumbers or anything that pertained to Watergate. I mean, they would change window shades in the apartments, and they would talk about it during that whole Watergate period. Everything was important about Watergate. They would change the lines in the parking garage, and they would talk about it during the Watergate hearings. But to think that Devon Archer can dump all of this massive evidence on the plates of the news media and have them completely ignore it? Come on. Come on. But anyway, today, this week, I was reading this article. The Atlanta courthouse has been locked down ahead of Fani Willis's decision to charge Trump over his efforts to challenge the 2020 elections in Georgia. They're expecting that that's going to drop any second now, but it'll probably happen right around the time something really important is going to come out and damage the Biden administration. You want?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's going to be time. But, and she's got some problems. Apparently, Georgia officials, Fulton County, they knew for weeks about tabulating problems. So they did have a count problem that they totally chose to ignore. And, they're going after Trump. Here is the charge, okay? It's his mouth. He can't shut up, and his words.
Yeah.
And it's a tape recording of him saying that all I want to do is find, keyword, find 11,780 votes.
Yeah.
Okay. That didn't say, let's take these votes and overturn them, which, by the way, has been said by every Democrat that's lost any congressional or representative seat in the damn United States. Go back and look, even the last election, and they took the House once by sitting there going through every election we lost. Let's go through and let's see if we can recount, throw out Republican votes, and find those lost Democrat votes. And they did it because the Republicans were too lazy to fight it, and they allowed the seat to be flipped. So the Democrats, don't do as I do as I say, and you are not allowed to find those 11,780 votes, which, you probably should have had and you did have, but we threw them away. We lost them. I'm sorry, but there's no evidence. She's going to have a problem. But
they're trying to punish Trump for claiming that the election was rigged. Now, this is one of the things that Jack Smith is going after Trump for.
Right. And you know what? You can't do that because, look, he was here, freedom of speech. You cannot say, I want to find 11,780 votes. He's not allowed to have freedom of thought. I believe that the election was stolen.
Yeah, I do too.
But you can't do that. You're a denier if you do that. And you don't have the right to do that, so that you don't have freedom of thought. You don't have freedom of speech. What else do you not have? You don't have freedom to believe anything.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be an interesting few months, I think, friends. If you are a fan of Trump, if you're a fan of his following, I don't like to call it movement. Movement tries to make the MAGA people out to be some kind of revolutionary kind of thing. And I would claim that the people who follow Donald Trump are rock solid, purebred Americans who believe in the Constitution and everything this country stands for. And I don't, when you call it a movement, you minimize it. You make it sound like we are the radicals. We are the exception. And that's just not the case.
Well, Jim, according to Facebook, you are a radical.
That's true, Bill. That's very true. I am.
You joined that club.
We should point that out to our listeners. If you're trying to find our latest episode, it may be a little difficult on Facebook now for absolutely no reason. By the way, we don't swear for the most part on this program. We say some, nothing that's really upsetting. We don't do that on this program, okay? We are kind of like the program you could run on any major network without having a beep. And
we are cleaner than the 6 o'clock evening news.
You're absolutely correct. And the only thing that they don't like is the fact that we think for ourselves, and it doesn't line up with how they think. But the thing is, they own the servers. So, out of nowhere, and I just said this before we started the program to Bill, I said, I tried to post the latest episode on that social network.
I'm banned. Yeah. I can't even do anything on it. And they got me. They said hate speech.
Our committee. This is him at the committee for guidelines. And I thought, wait a second. I've been doing this every day for a year and a half. No problem. You see my stuff. You know what we do. And
I'm gonna say something that somebody did. They had a Fox News thing. They made a meme. This person was a rock jock that's out of work now, can't find a job anywhere, and good. I hope they never find a job.
Mm-hmm.
But they show a dog taking a dump into a Fox newscaster's mouth. Now,
oh my God!
But that's not hate.
Yeah,
that's not foul or dirty.
Hey,
no.
How many different pictures and videos on Facebook do you see of drag shows and guys running around in skimpy G-strings and dancing in front of 5-year-olds, and everyone's just having a great old time doing that drag queen thing, and not a problem. They'll run it. That's fine. It's trans. But if you happen to talk like an American, hey, friends, we're going to try to figure a way to get it so that that we've reposted a program. But as far as posting the program specifically on Facebook, we probably will have difficulty doing that. If you cannot find our program, you can find it on Truth Social, okay? Truth Social. Is it on Twitter, Bill? Are we on X now?
Oh, yeah, we're on Twitter. It goes up on there.
Okay. We are around, but if you can't find it, do yourself a favor. Every day around 11 or 12 o'clock, go over to itsanotherday.com, right? Just itsanotherday.com. It'll be up there, along with every one of our other episodes. Itsanotherday.com. The name of the show is It's Another Day with Jim and Bill. So all you have to do is go to itsanotherday.com, and we're there. It's as simple as that, okay?
Well, we also own the domain of jimandbill.com, which was kind of weird, but we haven't.
Do we post there, Bill?
No, I don't have the website built. I either need to build it myself, and I'm not a web builder.
What if we just link it to itsanotherday.com?
Well, I still have to set it up and build it. I'm sitting there. I'm basically.
I can talk about it. As long as you have to do all the technical work.
No, I'm saying we need to get somebody that wants to be a fan of the show or a friend of the show that does that kind of thing. And
how would they contact us?
Mail at itsanotherday.com, or you got the phone number there.
Yeah, 833-538-7868. I've said it every day for almost 2 years, but I go away for a few days and I had to look at the card. 833-538-7868.
Well, you have a card in front of you that has all that information.
I have to write things down. At my age, I have Post-its everywhere, Anyway, I wanted to play for you something, Bill. I found this interview, and I'm going all weekend thinking about what's going on. And like I said, I had a 13-hour drive, and I bumped into this interview in my driving And I thought, oh, I gotta have that interview because it really sums it up. It's an interview with a lady. Her name is Dr. Jan Halper Hayes. JanHalper-Hayes. She's an expatriate. She's a lady who's graduated from Stanford, has her PhD. She's a brilliant lady, former vice president of the Republican Overseas and current analyst for the GOP. She is a contributor to GBN. GBN is that new network they have in England, Great Britain News, which has taken off. I mean, it's gone like you wouldn't believe. And you say, well, how can it be so successful so quickly? Well, it's backed up by a guy named John Malone. John Malone is an American businessman. He owns a bunch of stuff, including he's looking at, would you believe, CNN right now, if he doesn't already own it. And he is a multi-billionaire, and he makes his money buying and selling media. He owned the Discovery Channel for a long time, and I think he sold it to Universal. But Jan Halper Hayes is a very smart, grounded lady. She is a consultant. She participates in a Department of Defense task force. I mean, you know, you don't get to participate in a task force for the Department of Defense and be a crackpot, you know?
Nope.
So she was on GBN. I got it broken down into two parts so that we can talk for a few minutes because she says a lot. This is just a lady. She's a brilliant lady. She's a Trump supporter, obviously, and she's being talked to by anchors who are so woke, so liberal, and you'll hear it in their condescending way of talking. My God. I mean, nobody can believe Trump. I mean, is he as trustworthy as a chocolate teapot? You got to hear this. It's absolutely amazing. But anyway, she does a great job. This is Jan Halper Hayes.
There are real questions to be answered here.
There are?
Yeah, of course there are. Of course there are.
What he's being accused of, but what part do you think is to answer that the 2020 election is going to be litigated because of this? They've made a huge, huge mistake with this one. Because even though we thought what was going to happen was they were going to go after him for treason or sedition, but they did criminally charge him, but they didn't go to that extreme. As a result, he has due process, so he can subpoena people and bring things in. Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12th, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because what we see on this side of the pond is a very difficult situation where the legal system is politicized in the United States, which is abhorrent to us over here. So the fact that Trump can subpoena, some people saying it's a mistake by Jack Smith, but actually he can subpoena. The people can actually see evidence from both sides. That's a sensible move.
Exactly, and it's a great mistake by Jack Smith that he's done that. Absolutely great. See, the thing is, think about Edward Snowden and all the information he had. Think about the fact that our military, our Department of Defense Space Force, if you think that they don't have the actual real results from the election, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, but what we do know with this is we're told that there are plenty of notes from people, including Vice President Pence, that there are some recordings of Donald Trump acknowledging that actually what he said in public was nonsense. that some of these states, whether he claimed he was out saying look, Detroit is corrupt, it's all corrupt, the results are corrupt, and that when in reality he knew it wasn't. That's illegal.
But you know what? That's what someone's claiming, but that's not the fact, and that's not what Donald Trump really has ever said. He's been very, very clear. I mean, the issues were, for example, in Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania stepped in and changed some of the election laws. Under our Constitution, it's only the state legislators that can do that. 2,000 Mules, the film that came out, what they did, they spent over $4 million tracking the phones. And the reason it's only 2,000 mules is that based on the visits to the drop boxes in Georgia, they had to have gone over 10 times. And they've got all the film for that. So the thing is that the election integrity is so different and so problematic in every single state. But that doesn't mean that the machines didn't do something, that there were some other kind of finagling. But the long and short, go ahead.
Well, it doesn't, but that's where conspiracy comes in, is it? To say, well, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. Well, there's no evidence that it happened. I mean, there's how many court cases did the Trump campaign try to bring? Nothing's gone in his favor.
Okay, wait a minute. Everyone, the media goes, oh, there were 60 court cases that were rejected. No, there were 3. He won 2. He lost 1. 57 were never heard because they had no standing. And standing means that the person bringing the case has to claim some kind of impact or injury. So it's really, the media did that, and they're great at doing that, but it was a fallacy in there. And the thing is that, I sit on a task force at the Department of Defense, and the thing is, they've got the goods. They've got the goods. And Trump knew that if he presented any of the goods early on, we'd have a civil war. That he really felt that the people needed to see how bad it could get.
Jan Halper Hayes on GBN in Great Britain. I love it. She says that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's a legitimate president of what is now a bankrupt U.S. corporation.
Right.
Which is... it says that was a treaty from 1871. On September 12th, 2018, Trump created an executive order, and in that order, he outlined in any future elections, any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. I mean, it's like Trump was aware that things were about to change, and that this bankrupt corporation was going to be a thing of the past. And he was saying to Biden, yeah, you can be the president of that because that really doesn't exist anymore. We're into something that, we're into something that was the foundation of our country now. We're back to being an independent sovereign nation and not that bankrupt 1871 corporation. I used to poo-poo that thing when it first came out, Bill, when I first heard about that, because nobody talked about that until after the 2020 election, that bankrupt corporation thing. Mm-hmm. But the more you look into it, I mean, it's written up. It's there. There is a corporation that was founded in 1871.
That's right.
And it was because apparently Great Britain helped fund the Civil War, and we were paying them back.
Yeah. I mean, look, we have been operating under a sham for years.
Yep.
And the sham grew legs, arms, and horns, and we're wrestling with that sham right now. It's the devil. But,
yeah.
I find it interesting when they throw a case out, oh, you have no standing.
Yeah.
Because no standing means you cannot prove harm. Now, I shoot a guy and he's dead, bleeding on the ground. There's harm there.
Right.
All right. But I steal an election. What's the harm? Because nothing has happened yet to cause harm. So you have no standing to prove that I stole that election because you haven't been harmed yet.
Bill, I'll never understand how 27 United States can file a suit against the elections, file it with the Supreme Court, and have them turn around to those states and say, this lawsuit that you filed, it has no standing. I mean, what has more standing than a state in a U.S. presidential election?
Yeah, and there is harm to the people, because the harm is that their will was not exercised and carried out because you blocked it. And that's all there is to it. Mm-hmm. And you need to at least allow the chance. But see, if we allow the chance for somebody to go in and discredit it and prove that it was stolen, well, then now you're guilty of something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they have no choice but to do that. Well, you have no standing. Well, an appointee that just happens to be a Democrat appointee threw that case out because it had no merit. They don't want to. Of course, somebody guilty of something doesn't want to hear about the crime or the charge against them. I don't want to hear it, and we're not going to hear it because you've got no standing.
Is that just like
just like a Democrat?
No, but it's like the automatic default answer to when they don't want to answer something. They don't want to look into this lawsuit. Well, just to say there was no standing. We won't pursue that because
it's like a gag reflex. You stick your finger down your throat,
yes.
You're going to gag.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening
true.
here. You're getting this gag reflect from the other side because we're caught up in something that's being shoved down the throat of America.
I was thinking as I was driving back yesterday. I was thinking, I truly believe that we're in the middle of a war that's happening in the background right now that we're really not seeing on television every night. But we're going against the deep state, and they don't go quietly. They got a lot to lose.
Don't. And look, if in 2018 Trump did away with the bankrupt corporation, that means that everything that is right now is not.
Yeah.
And so this is like the eviction papers were handed out. You didn't pay your rent. It's time for you to get out.
That's right.
They're not wanting to get out, and they're arguing every case that they can that you had no standing to evict them because.
Hey, have you ever wondered why when Trump goes places, they have 17 cars in a motorcade like a president? I mean, most former presidents, when they travel right now, they might travel with 2 or 3 cars, because they don't need that massive presence anymore. But when Trump, for example, went to Miami, it was a massive motorcade they had the ambulance, they had everything with him as he went to these different places. I'm going to play part 2 of her answer in a second, but you'll hear her say that, I'll let her do the explaining because she does a great job. Again, this is Jan Halper Hayes. She was on Great Britain News, and she says what a lot of people won't say in this country. You will never hear her being interviewed in the United States on these networks. Nope. Even on the Fox News, they won't do it. Trust me. This is part 2 of the interview. Listen.
That's the sense that we're getting from Trump's lawyer about what his defense is going to be. So this is all going to be based on free speech, the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, that he had a right to say what he believed. And he believed that the election results were not as was put out. But the point is, if you live in a democracy and you believe in a democracy, then that means that even if you don't like the outcome of an election, you respect that because it's a democratic vote.
Well, a democratic vote, and so therefore he should be silent about it.
He has a right to speak, but the issue, of course, is if he then acts to subvert that election result.
Oh, so that because you think he's being criticized because in Georgia he said, "Can you find me 12,000 votes?" Or, the thing is, he didn't try to subvert anything. What he's really done is he set up the deep state to come out, and that's why we're seeing all these things. I mean, it was revealed with whistleblowers and Hunter Biden's ex-best friend that in 2015, the head of Burisma gave Joe and Hunter Biden $10 million bribe. In 2018, Joe is on TV publicly saying that he threatened that unless they got the prosecutor fired, that he wasn't going to let them have their $1 billion in support. In 2019, Trump calls Zelensky to find out about what went on to get the prosecutor fired, and he gets impeached. We've lived with it for a long time.
We're almost out of time. So I just want to pick you up on one thing. You said earlier on, Donald Trump has been very clear on this. Is he a man that you believe? I mean, look, he's about believable as a chocolate teapot, isn't he?
Look, I know that, thank God you got the negativity in at the end and not the beginning. I can always count on you for that. Always.
But it's a legitimate point to say that Donald Trump is a man who always speaks the truth. That can't be the case. I mean, it's hardly the case of any leader, to be fair, but definitely not Donald Trump.
Well, I don't know if I said everything or always, because I do call him the embellisher in chief, because he's a marketer. But in terms of telling us things, optics, you better believe that he's very much a straight shooter in terms of actions that he's going to take or what he thinks needs to be done. They made fun of him because they assumed he broke protocol and walked in front of the Queen. No, if you go back and look at it, you will see he looked at her. She gave a wave with her hand. He proceeded. She took a couple of steps, he stopped, and he waited for her to join. That was an optic to tell us that he then was going to bankrupt the U.S. corporation, because it was the Vatican, the Crown, and the U.S. that was part since 1871. And we were giving you our tax dollars. We were paying back. Forget this Tea Party and without taxation, without representation. We owed you a lot of money because you helped us in the Civil War. And so that is what Trump has now, he told the Queen, I'm ending this. We're dissolving this corporation. We're going to go back to being a republic and we'll all be separate. The Pope wasn't happy. You should find the picture of him visiting the Pope. It took 650 planes to remove our gold from the Vatican Bank.
I'm not very happy about it, Jan, to be perfectly honest. We could do with your money at the minute. Keep it flowing, I say. Jan Halper-Hayes, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
You too.
Did you hear the end there? 650 planes to remove the gold from the Vatican is what she said at the very end.
Right.
And they throw this stuff out there. You hear stuff like that and say, oh, that's conspiracies. By the way, I remember the picture of the Pope standing next to Trump. When you see this picture, it looks like the Pope is smelling something bad. And, as opposed to the picture of him standing with Nancy Pelosi, from the woke left, everything but a great Catholic. And the Pope is standing there smiling, happy as can be.
So they need to get Trump out of the picture, out of sight, so they can go and reinstitute this old deal, because this is how they are making their money and how they're getting paid.
Absolutely.
And it's on the backs of the American people. So what we have actually is a war. We're at war right now.
Right now. Yeah. By the way, speaking of this speaking of war, this other war that we're participating in over in Europe, that's all part of the scheme, all part of the plan.
So it's the free state versus the owned state.
Absolutely. I like that, Bill. I like that. The free state versus the owned state. And they want to own you. Yes, they want to own. They want to own us.
So if you say I'm a free person, you should go back and start at the beginning and listen to the whole show. Yeah. And why? Because we did kind of walk it up. We didn't plan this, but we did kind of walk it up. But we're at war. Free state against the owned state.
Yeah.
She dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and that explains everything that's going on, the news. And now you got to wonder how many people are going along with this that are, compliant or complacent with it, that have not a damn clue as to what's going on.
Well, I think in Washington, D.C., I think there's such a subculture, a sub-government, not culture, sub-government that has run consistently and constantly forever. I mean, presidents will come and go, administrations come and go. They're on the left, they're on the right, but all that stuff is like fluff. And the real government that has their hands on our throat, right, is that sub-government, that deep state. And that deep state doesn't change. They're there all the time. I mean, when they leave, somebody steps into their shoes who has been trained,
Well, think about this, though. Right now, because of the free state versus the own state, and you had that corporation in effect, there are a lot of times they say, well, the economy's out of control. We've got to put, like what's going on right now has nothing to do with Biden, but they do different things. If we didn't have the owned state, if we weren't beholden to the Queen and the Pope, what's wrong with this country running out of control to where we just sit there and the perfect machine was built and we climbed to new heights and new financial benchmarks and freedoms?
All you have to do is look at what happened during the Trump administration. He put sanctions on the Chinese. We started making mounds and buckets and loads of money that we were never making from our relationship with China. We became a very independent country when it came to fuel. It's just the way. We were making money hand over fist. We weren't relying on the Saudis or the Venezuelans with their dirty crude. We were doing it with our own good crude under our feet. We had reserves that were fully tapped off. We were doing just fantastic. Thank you very much. And that irritated the living daylights out of the deep state. That made it. Just look at our border. Just look at the darn border. I mean, what country in its right mind would say, remove all the protection and all the filtration and all of the security, just let them come in. Just let, and don't stop them. Just, as a matter of fact, put them on buses and bring them to cities around the country, and don't even ask them what they're going to do in those cities. Just let them go. Just let them go. By the way, Bill, I went to a mall on Saturday up in Massachusetts, and I sat there because I got my bum knees and stuff. So my family was out shopping, and I sat around and I did a lot of people watching. I don't really do that. A lot of old people do that. It's almost like a sport to sit there and to watch people walk around. First of all, in this mall, I would venture to say that first 80% of the people were overweight and had a weight problem. And I was thinking, boy, that really is a pandemic. That's the pandemic. The pandemic is that we've let ourselves go as a nation, and we better get our act together and start. If we do anything, we should be promoting getting people back into shape and helping them
we're
lose
being
weight.
Fattened for the slaughter. We're like pigs running around.
Yeah. The other thing, Bill, is the other thing is this. I would say 55-60% of the people walking around were speaking Spanish. Well, isn't that interesting? This is a new dynamic.
Well, yeah, and it might be, we might have passed the point of no return on the language barrier, because it used to be, you come to this country, it's okay that you speak a foreign language. That's great. Sure. But you have to learn our language. And English has always been the universal language.
And what does it say, Bill? It says when you come to this country and you speak a foreign language and you make the effort to learn the language of the United States, which is English, it means that you want to participate. You believe in what we do, and you want to participate.
But people that come here now don't want to participate because they don't have to. And as you look at all the people that have crossed the border illegally, they're demanding their rights. What the hell rights do you have? You came across the border illegally.
I saw there was a demonstration in Chicago, and they were all illegals that were demonstrating, holding up signs, and the sign said, "We want jobs, we want better housing, and we want whatever transportation. They were, but it wasn't like please give us. It was we want this.
They're demanding, and
Yes.
they're demanding rights that they don't have. But Biden is ready to give it to them, and he is not a legitimate president.
And what has Trump said when he gets back into office? He said they're going to be shipped back politely. They're going to be, humanely, but they're going to be shipped back. And don't think for 1 second that he'll be the first president to do that, because Dwight David Eisenhower did just that. There was a big onslaught after World War II of illegals into our country. And Dwight Eisenhower, without much fanfare, because the media was on his side at the time, he shipped them all back, and he wasn't quite so nice about it. They got in the back of pickup trucks and, Army vehicles and on their way.
Get the hell out of here. Yeah.
Yep. And Trump said he's going to find where they are in the different cities. And, the police departments know where they are. The people know, they're getting free stuff, and a lot of them can't get jobs. So all you have to do is find out where they're getting the free stuff, and you can package them up and send them back.
Yeah, they're getting free stuff, but American manufacturing is shutting down as we speak right now. The news is not reporting it, but they're shutting down. Do we have the cleanest food supply in the world? No, actually, we don't anymore. Maybe it's clean, but there's so much disease and famine and chemicals that's in our food supply. It's ridiculous. Why do you think people are dying of cancer everywhere? A little pack of energy drink that's 10 calories, got aspartame in it, a chemical, fake sugar that causes cancer. We're killing our population.
Hey, listen,
we know this stuff is bad.
I got some of my coffee right now. Please, I'm trying to, I think you're right, but
we're doing all of this stuff, and we've got Tyson is shutting down 4 plants.
I was going to mention that. Yeah,
we are not producing the food. The damage may be so far down the tubes that we're existing off of reserve supplies.
And Bill, those 4 plants, that's just in addition to the other 100 we've talked about in the past that have closed down in the last year or so.
We are going to be starving very soon, and what better way to kill off a population than to sit there and say, "Well, we're sorry, we're doing everything we can." You're going to have to ration foods.
Hey, listen.
And we're going to have to sit there. Sorry, you old folks or you people that are disabled, we got to make some decisions.
You know what you might want to do, folks? You might want to go out and buy yourself some vegetable seeds.
What you might want to do is go to the discount stores and go to the food pantries. Sign yourself up, because they cannot ask you. Let me again say, they cannot ask you about any of your finances. Go into the food pantries, take what is allowed to be given to you, but get food that way, and then go into the stores, the discount stores, the dollar stores and whatnot, and buy up the canned goods. Take $200 or $300 and buy the canned goods and store them, because they're going to be around for a long time. Don't open it. When you open it, you got to consume it. But then have your own supply.
When Jan Halper Hayes was talking on that interview we were talking a few seconds ago, you heard her say, and it's so true, Trump had to do what he's doing because if he exposed what was really going on just after the 2020 election, there would have been a civil war.
I think there's still going to be.
Well, Bill, I think that could happen. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but it could happen because people are fed up. People are fed up. For example, I haven't got the audio, but I heard it on the way up yesterday. The audio was of Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. He is the senator. He is the minority leader. He's the minority leader, in the House, in the Senate, and he was out there trying to speak, and the crowd in unison was chanting, "Retire, retire." I mean, they were chanting en masse, and they were drowning him out, so he couldn't actually speak. He couldn't speak. He tried to speak over them, and they wouldn't let him. This is Mitch McConnell.
How many years does he have left?
I think this is it. I mean, you saw what happened.
No, how many years does he have left? to serve this term.
I think he has probably 3.5, 3.
So is
6
that
years.
enough time for somebody to endear themselves to the public so that they would get reelected?
Oh, yeah. I think.
See, the reason is that the Republicans put a poison pill. You got a Democratic governor there, and usually the governor gets to pick who fills that seat, which would be a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Not in Kentucky. The Republicans were smart at one time and made it a law that if Mitch McConnell, for any reason, has to step down, they have to put a Republican in.
Yeah. Well,
so now's the time for him to step down if he is loyal to his party.
a couple of things I want to mention before we run out of time, because I looked at the clock on the wall. The Attorney General of West Virginia is trying to help Trump out and get the case against Trump in D.C. moved to West Virginia. He thinks that Trump can't get a fair shake, and I think that's. But you know,
that's a Democratic state. Why not?
She's not going to let that happen. That judge down in D.C. She's going to get her 2 cents in, her moment in the.
So what do you think is
limelight.
going to happen with Trump's trial?
I think that he's going to be found guilty in D.C. I think that on appeal he'll be found innocent, and I think all of this is flushing out the deep state. Everybody who you see who is going after Trump right now, unbeknownst to them, I think they're actually letting the world see who they are.
There was no insurrection. There's more mounting evidence that January 6th was a Democrat operative, it was something that they put together.
Yeah,
they knew about, and security and everything was hired well beforehand, as if they knew something was going on. In other words, it was a setup.
They're going to have to litigate January 6th in the Trump trial. And if that's on television, forget that January 6th committee. They're going to bring people up under oath during the Trump trial, and Trump's lawyers are going to get a chance to lay it on the line, lay everybody out.
He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong there, and that should come out. But they want to sit there and get him on treason charges to where, because if they sit there and convict him and they throw treason in there, they'll say there is no time to wait for an appeal. They're going to try to execute. They're pushing to execute him.
Oh, I know. They don't want this guy to be around the planet, never mind around politics. I want to play one thing before we leave. This is kind of stepping to the side, but it's interesting. You know about Dylan Mulvaney and that whole fiasco.
I know
with Bud
about
Light.
Dylan,
Yeah, well, Anheuser-Busch heir Billy Bush says his ancestors would have rolled over in their grave if they saw Bud Light marketing their product with a transgender influencer. And I want to play the audio for you. This is Billy Bush, a direct heir of Anheuser-Busch, the company that actually made Bud and Bud Light. I guess they've sold it out. He's no longer the owner, but he probably has millions.
A German company bought it.
Yeah, they did. I think, but probably has millions of dollars still in stock. So, he has a say. Anyway, here's what he said. Billy Bush.
You must have strong opinions about the
Dylan Mulvaney campaign.
Yeah, Dylan Mulvaney campaign.
I think my family, my ancestors would have rollen over in their grave. They were very patriotic. They loved this country and what it stood for. They believed that transgender, gays, that sort of thing was all a very personal issue. They love this country because it is a free country and people are allowed to do what they want. But it was never meant to be on a beer can and never meant to be pushed in people's faces. So they would have they would have never marketed their brands that way. As you know, AB was one of the greatest marketers ever in any business. And they were incredible with what they came out with, the Clydesdales, the frogs, the lizards, all the different promotions they had, all the different advertising they had. And the last thing they would have done was to get as controversial as they did, as InBev has with Dylan Mulvaney advertising.
Do you think that, look, the motivation behind it was clearly inclusiveness. What do you think of the reaction to to that Instagram post? Because the reaction was seismic.
Yeah, I think people who drink beer, I think they're your common folk. I think they are the blue collar worker who goes out and works hard every single day. And the last thing they want pushed down their throat, or to be drinking is a beer can with that kind of message on it. I just don't think that's what they're looking for. They want their beer to be truly American, truly patriotic, as it always has been. Truly America's beer, which Bud Light was and probably isn't any longer.
Yeah, that's Billy Bush, the heir to Anheuser-Busch, and he's saying Grandpa would have rolled over in his grave. And he said InBev, that's the company that you were talking about, that German company. They destroyed the brand. Terrible marketing.
In bed like a bunch of inbreds, I guess. I don't know. When you said Budweiser, you said it all. Apparently not, because Dylan had something to do with that.
That's true.
Oh, geez.
What he said, though, what Billy Bush said is what the InBev people should have said, what the chairman of Anheuser-Busch should have said now. We made a mistake. We're an American company, and we're proud of our history, and we apologize for making a mistake because, hey, friends make mistakes. Even the best of friends make mistakes. And we made a mistake and move on. But to this day, Anheuser-Busch, they pulled the ad, and they tried to keep a low profile, and they tried to put other ads on that took your attention away, but they didn't catch on because the people are too smart. Smart.
Billy Bush could sue them because
that's true.
Because they have defamed his name.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A family name. It has nothing to do with the beer. Say, hey, you can keep the beer company and the recipe and everything because we would make another. But you know what? You've defamed our name, so please change it to InBev beer.
I like that. It's
InBev beer. And then Dylan can be your spokesperson.
Maybe if Billy's listening, Billy Bush, if you're listening to our podcast, you never know. I mean, when you do a podcast, you throw it out there, right? And you never know who's listening. And maybe
even Ed McMahon would come, out from the grave to say,
"That's right, sir."
It's InBev beer.
Yes, sir. Ed McMahon. Oh my gosh.
You say Bush, you've said it all. Well, he looked like a Bush man,
That's true.
Yeah, he drank a lot of beer.
Budweiser, you've said
it all.
Hey, buddy, we've done it. Another show in the can. Good to be back. Here's again. I missed this. I like getting away.
No, you like having a say because you sure as hell don't get it from the news that's out there.
I know, man.
The recycled news. That's what it is recycled news. It's one story played over and over and over again in a loop.
Yeah.
It's recycled news.
Boy, by the way, yesterday, driving through the Laurel Mountains in western Pennsylvania, we hit some weather, Bill. It was like somebody turned the garden hose on, and you couldn't see the front of your car. And I thought, well, this is fun at 65 miles an hour. And but
you had women in the car too. That was really fun. You driving?
Actually, the good thing about it is instead of two eyes looking at the road, I had six. My wife and my daughter.
And telling you how to drive that car.
That's okay. And you know what I do after all these years of being married? I listen.
Well, that's a good idea. After all these years of being married, you should listen. If you don't
I'm very well trained.
You didn't learn anything if you don't listen.
That's true. Hey, buddy, I hope you... Oh, by the way, if you want to contact us, I almost wrapped us up without giving the contact number. Our contact number, 833-538-7868, 833-538-7868.
And there's mail at itsanotherday.com, mail at itsanotherday.com.
Okay, so you've had, 5 days to relax the cricoid muscle in your throat, so you should be nice.
Muscle, yeah.
You should be ready to lay it on with
You want me to wake up everybody in this building?
I think it's about time they all get up.
Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Oh, I like it. The voice of freedom. CRN America. These days, when you want an answer about just about anything, you ask Alexa. You ask her about the weather. You ask her who won your favorite sporting event. You ask her to find a fact that you can't find anywhere. Well, we did that too. We asked her how many people have downloaded it'sanotherday.com. And this is what she said.
From acceleration.com, it has been downloaded as much as 260,433,467 times.
I know. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to us too. But it's Alexa. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And tell your friends about it'sanotherday.com. We could use an extra listener. I mean, what do you do when you only have 260 million?